welcome to the first of my lectures on otherwise known as Pig. And this one's looking at opening the story. Now, there are a whole pile of different ways you can structure a novel or a play. You can do it in 3, 4, or 5 acts. You can follow a hero's journey structure. You can be circular. You can be linear. But it doesn't matter which structure you do, you're still going to have to introduce the story. And that's what I want to talk about today. Now, when you introduce a story, whether, as I said, this is in the ordinary life part of a hero's journey, or whether it's in Act 1 of a 3, 4, or 5 act structure, there are a few things you really need to do. You need to introduce your characters. Any main characters really need to be introduced in that first section. So we get to know them, we understand that they're important. You need to establish the setting. We need to know, are we on a fantasy world? Are we on a real world? What's that world like? You also need to establish what the main themes or ideas in the story are. Whether that is romance or, in the case of otherwise known as Pig, bullying. And the final thing you really need to do is to establish what type of book it's going to be. If you're expecting something light and comic, you don't want to open with "Stormin punched me in the mouth today." And as well as those literary things you need to do, there's one other thing you need to do, and that's capture people's attention. And I'm going to read the opening of this and see whether people think I've achieved that. Stormin punched me in the mouth today. It's always a shock, that sudden explosion of pain, and the short involuntary cry as my lips meet my teeth. I hate that cry. That's when he laughs, along with the rest of Year 9. Maybe they're too scared to do anything else, or maybe it's funny, watching someone else get hurt. They're laughing now. Some are even applauding and calling out suggestions. It's like a football game, except that I can't play sport, and Stormin doesn't like suggestions. He's just standing there, over 6 feet tall, with his fists reclenching on the end of gorilla arms. Come on, Stormin, hit him! Smack! It's a single punch, and Alex, the kid who's spoken, is down. Stormin's clearly pissed, and what I should do is keep my already bloodied mouth shut and just back off like everyone else. What's wrong, Stormin? Don't you like team games? I say instead. Nah, I don't. Then he hits me again. It's a different shock this time, because he gut punches me, and I lose breath in a sickening thud before his fist connects with my eye and stars explode. It's about now he starts to smile. At about the 3rd or 4th punch, when I'm down and cringing and wishing I could take his stupid face apart and knowing I can't. I hate that smile. Still a loser, Pig, he says. Guess you haven't learnt much over summer. I don't know, I reply, bloody, bowed, and hating his guts. I can read. Which is when he kicks me. I really should learn to keep my stupid mouth shut. Seeing Stormin thoroughly occupied, the rest of Year 9 drift back, though they do wait till he's left before resuming their commentary. Loser, coward, hopeless, pussy, pig. That's me, Morgan Patrick Lodi, otherwise known as Pig. Now, I don't know how many of you are or want to be writers, but I can tell you that a writer will spend a lot of time on those first few pages. They're the pages that make the impact, they're the pages that get people reading the rest of the book. And they're also, as I said, the pages that need to tell you what that book's going to be about. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time now unpacking that first page and a half to give you an idea of how that happens. The first line, Stormin punched me in the mouth today. We've already got our narrator and we've got obviously our antagonist. And we've got a really strong idea of what this story is going to be about. And then you go on to the next paragraph. It's always a shock, that sudden explosion of pain and the short involuntary cry as my lips meet my teeth. Now that's deliberately evocative. I'm making no attempt whatsoever to minimize what's happening here. I'm actually giving you more details probably than you need or want, because I'm wanting to put you into the position of Morgan, into the position of the feeling of being punched in the mouth, because the point about bullying is that probably about 20% or less is physical. Most bullying that happens at schools is verbal or social, and a lot of it now happens online. But despite that, I've had students and adults tell me that they found this book incredibly realistic. And I think the reason is that the experience of being bullied is like being punched in the mouth. It doesn't really matter whether someone's just saying something. It's that same feeling like your breath's been taken away from you, like that sudden sharp shock of pain. And that's what this book's about, and that first paragraph tells you that. The next couple of lines tells you where we are and what's happening, along with the rest of Year 9. Maybe they're too scared to do anything else, or maybe it's funny, watching someone else get hurt. So we know we're at Year 9. If we're in Australia, we know we're at school. And we know that this group are not going to help Morgan. We don't yet know whether they're malicious or just scared, but we know they're not going to be a help. And they're certainly laughing at the moment. They're laughing now. Some are even applauding and calling out suggestions. So I think we're fairly clear that they're really not on Morgan's side. And now we get some more information about Stormin. Stormin doesn't like suggestions. So we can see that Stormin is not the leader of this crowd. He's a separate entity from the group that are calling out suggestions to him. And you get the first description of Stormin, and in fact one of the only descriptions of Stormin we get in the book. Over 6 feet tall, with his fists reclenching on the end of gorilla arms. And it's interesting to point to note, and throughout the story you won't find out, we don't actually know what race Stormin is. We don't know anything about his physical appearance except that he's large. And in pigs' eyes, we often see him compared to some form of gorilla or ape. Okay, come on, Stormin, hit him. Smack. It's a single punch, and Alex, the kid who's spoken, is down. So we're really establishing how powerful Stormin is. He is the person who can fell someone with a single blow. He's a real considerable threat. Stormin's clearly pissed, and what I should do is keep my already bloodied mouth shut, and just back off like everyone else. So we can see that Morgan has a good idea of what he should do, and we see in the next line, "What's wrong, Stormin? Don't you like team games?" I say instead, that he's not following his own advice. And there we get a really clear picture of Morgan. Even in this situation, even faced with this threat that we already know he's got no chance of beating, he doesn't shut up and keeps in fact antagonizing, or in fact fighting against Stormin in the only way he can. Nah, I don't. It hits me again. So we get the second quite detailed description of what it's like to be hit. And already we see that even the violence isn't the main problem for Morgan. It's about now he starts to smile. At about the 3rd or 4th punch, when I'm down and cringing, and wishing I could take his stupid face apart and knowing I can't. So we've got this real idea that Morgan is helpless and certainly perceives himself as helpless. And that he hates the way Stormin's smiling at him. He hates this sense of superiority that Stormin has over him. Already that's clear, as much as he hates the fact he's being hit. "Still a loser, pig," he says. "Guess you haven't learnt much over summer." So Stormin's attacking Morgan. And Morgan's attack back tells us a lot about both Morgan and Stormin. "I don't know," I reply, bloody, bowed, and hating his guts. "I can read." Now, you've probably heard the saying bloody but unbowed. Morgan is deliberately reversing that. He's admitting that he can't do anything. He's admitting he's defeated, but he's still attacking back. And his attack shows us probably one of the reasons why Stormin's attacking him. Stormin can't read. Stormin's illiterate, so Stormin in his own way is as trapped as Morgan in this situation. And Stormin's response is violence, which is when he kicks me. I really should learn to keep my stupid mouth shut. So again, we know Morgan knows what he should do and he doesn't do it. And we're going to see that pattern repeated time and time again throughout the book. Okay, so at that point in the narration, we leave the focus on Morgan and Stormin and come back to the focus on the community that surrounds Morgan, the in fact setting and the people that we're going to see him have to deal with throughout the story, the rest of year 9. And they come back verbally bullying Morgan. Loser, coward, hopeless, pussy, pig. That's me, Morgan Patrick Lodi, otherwise known as Pig. And there you see the second main theme of this story, which is the whole aspect of depersonalizing someone. This is where the title comes from, otherwise known as Pig. This is a person who we already know quite a bit about. We already know they're intelligent. We already know they keep fighting. We already know they're being bullied. We already know they have no chance of winning against this gorilla-like Stormin. But to the rest of the world, they're just Pig. And at that point, that's where we leave that first section, with an idea of both our protagonist, our antagonist, our setting, the people that make up that setting, and the themes of bullying and depersonalization that we're going to see coming over and over throughout the book. Now, that's a fairly heavy opening. And this book is 194 pages long. The next 192 and a half pages are Morgan being beaten up by Stormin. It's not going to be much fun to read. And for that reason, I've actually tried to put a lot of comedy and different types of aspects in this story as well. So my next video is going to be looking at how I made a book where one boy is being beaten up constantly into something that is in fact entertaining to read. Thank you.